Kurnel MC, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, mate. Thank you. Good, Tom.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem, man. So, this is from a vinyl that was previously released called Bring Back the Funk Volume 4.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I got together with a guy called DJ B-Side from Southampton, who's a hip-hop and funk producer. And yeah, it was our first collaboration, and it's just a really funky number about living and breathing sort of music in each and every day, each and every way, with a sly little Busta Rhymes sample in there as well. So.
You can tell, man. I think like just listening to your music, obviously, like it has a very kind of positive energy to it. It's kind of a like refreshing change to some stuff that I naturally normally listen to, being from the UK, and it brings us on to the origin. So obviously from New Zealand originally.
That's right. Yeah, born and raised.
So tell us about it, man. Tell us about the journey.
Well, the musical journey or the journey from New Zealand to the UK?
Whatever you want to start with. The literal journey. Breakfast in the morning.
Musically, really, music has always been in the family, in the blood. My dad was a bass guitarist in a band. My mum was a lead guitarist in a band. My older brother played drums. And I was kind of the youngest in the family. And obviously growing up with them being in they're in barn dance bands originally, so playing like ding 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 ding, and I used to get dragged along in the back of the car and like put to bed in the back of the car while they'd go out and do gigs, you know, and so that kind of music has sort of always been around me. And as I've got older, sort of my early teens, you know, starting to be a bit more rebellious and sneak out at night, and got introduced to like Snoop Dogg and things like Body Count and Ice-T and all those guys, and Public Enemy, and it was very American. I think the sort of hip hop influence was very American. I was
going to say, man. So obviously, did it almost mirror what was happening in the States at the time in New Zealand? Because if the Wikipedia page is anything to go by, I was reading that the kind of first exposure to hip hop culture in New Zealand was through breakdancing as opposed to the music itself.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, movies like Beat Street and things like that. You know, when that came to New Zealand, it was like, what is this type of music you have here, you know, and there was that kind of deep-seated, the traditional kind of Māori music is very sort of bass heavy, very driven, guttural, and that kind of bass driven music really resounded with sort of the Māori people and sort of New Zealand.
So when did that come out then?
It would have been like early 90s, like 90, 89, 90.
Right.
I don't know, I can't exactly remember when Beat Street came out itself, but it was around that time, and that sort of spawned the first, I guess the first generation sort of hip hop artists or musicians out of New Zealand, like Upper Heart Posse and King PC, Shay Fu, people like that.
Shay Fu is a name I'm familiar with, and he's quite a famous hip hop artist in New Zealand, right?
He is,
and a soul singer, and he's been around for some time. Yeah, I've heard a couple of tracks. I remember because some of his vocals sounds quite kind of akin to something like Fat Freddy's Drop. Yeah. I heard it and I was like, this is really smooth, I like this, who is it? Dug a bit deeper, because admittedly my knowledge of New Zealand hip hop, it barely kind of scrapes the surface.
Yeah, sure.
I was chatting to you earlier, I've heard of a dude called Scribe.
Yep.
When I first heard him, I thought he was American.
Yeah.
I think because he's got that twang, and obviously that's probably quite prominent in a lot of New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, I mean nowadays the accent is sort of grown into its own as a hip hop, but when we first started, that was who we emulated, was American, so we all rapped like it. I still rap like it.
Well, it's the same as in the UK though, man. Like, I mean, everyone, before like London Posse happened, like Rodney P, everyone over here was rapping in American accents in like the late 80s, you know, and even like the transition into the 90s to some extent as well. So obviously kind of different countries derive hip hop from the States, so it makes sense, right?
I found from what I listened to, a lot of it, I couldn't pick up on any accent at all.
Okay.
Like, a lot of the New Zealand stuff.
I definitely could, man. I
probably just more of the American kind of side of it, but I don't know.
I think
that's kind of what I picked up on.
Who was the guy I was listening to? It might have been, is it Dave Dallas?
Yeah, David Dallas. Yeah,
Dave Dallas, and his kind of stuff was very sounded very contemporary. It was almost kind of like could be like Drake or kind of a Kanye or something like that.
He very much has kind of that sort of very sort of chilled beats. They're very slow, but his delivery is like on point. You know, he's very good at delivering a clear message. And but yeah, people like David Dallas, PNC, other guys who are sort of now almost legendary, are just sort of big inspirations of mine.
I listened to is it Morse Gang? Yeah. That I actually found was a lot of New Zealand influence, especially in the music video as well. It's the one where they sampled over the Hopsin, Illman Hopsin 5 beat.
Yeah.
such a sick track, and the video is like really like you could tell like all the New Zealand culture and like the hacker and things like that were all kind of in it, and like the kind of the face paint and that. So I could tell there was a lot from that. Do you think a lot of like New Zealand hip hop, like you said in the early 90s, like the Maori and that, do you think that draws a lot on kind of the New Zealand culture?
Oh, absolutely, and I think there's a big differential between, I mean, you've got the Aboriginals of Australia, and you've got the American Indians, and you've got the New Zealand Maori, and the New Zealand Maori have really found themselves as a culture, and they've taken that and really run with it, and so they feed all of their culture through any avenue they can to get it out to the world, so that they're very proud of it, very proud people.
Yeah, man.
I'm Maori by culture as well. My dad's full blood Maori. My mum's Irish. So, so it started with that.
The Irish get everywhere, man. The Irish get everywhere.
Explain to me, Māori.
Maori.
Maori.
Oh, it's the indigenous people of New Zealand.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like the haka when they play rugby. It's that's a Maori tradition, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. It's like a war dance.
Yeah, so the Māori were sort of the first people to New Zealand before it was colonised.
Yeah.
So I did actually read somewhere that with some of like the initial like hip hop that was released from the Maori people was kind of in almost kind of anti-racism, because they couldn't get like any radio play, and it was all kind of portraying that message, just trying to be heard. And
well, it was. I think that you'll get that with any sort of indigenous culture.
Socio-economic kind of.
Absolutely.
They're
always trying to sort of fight the system to a certain degree and sort of speak their minds, but they've actually managed to come out not on top but equal. I'd say, compared to a lot of other cultures that get sort of suppressed, and they've really sort of shone, I think.
Nice, man.
And it's quite cool that every language, also the linguistics of languages. I don't know many Māori rappers who rap in Māori, but you hear it and it's very similar to French. It's that even though you don't understand it, the way they say it and the pronunciation and the linguistics behind it, just like, oh man, that sounds good.
The French flow so well, don't they? Man?
They do,
I'm a massive fan of French hip hop, man.
Yeah.
Even to your point, you don't necessarily know what they're saying, but it's just easy on the ear. Effortless how they ride a beat. It's just all over that, man.
Yeah.
But so going back to your own kind of personal journey through hip hop, so it started off kind of kid tagging along to gigs and stuff like that until you grew up, you started rebelling, you started being exposed to hip hop music. So when did you first start pursuing it and making art for yourself?
Well, what happened? I think I would have been about 16 or 17, and my older brother thought that I was kind of cool enough. He's like, right, he's at an age now, he's cool enough to like, hang out with me, because my brother was like 24, 25, and he'd been used to this little rat bag running around. And he's like, right, I think you're ready to come and hang out and come and have a few beers and meet the guys who I'd make music with in the studio. So he started taking me along to the studio, and I'd just sit in and listen to their band, rehearse and make music. And they were starting to tinker with sort of electronic aspects. So the guitarist also played the keyboard and triggered a few loops. But they had a band, and I was allowed to go and sit in the studio. And obviously I was starting to hang out with my mates and listen to rap, and I was getting into a bit of freestyling on a Friday night on the street corner under the street light, like Coolio style. And then they just said, well, why don't you get up and we've got this beat, made a beat, put a loop down, why don't you get up and sort of have a bit of a rap? So I got up and I just made up a really bad freestyle, but it was obviously okay, as the producer, the guy who played the keyboard and the guitar, was like, oh, I think we'll start making a couple of tracks. I've got these ideas, and his name was Funk and Slow Cuts, and so he started making a few beats and sort of giving them to me, and I would start writing to those, and it would have been my 16 or 17 when we did our first show, and it was literally 3 tracks in front of about 8 people.
You've got to start somewhere.
At a little community art gallery centre kind of thing. On a Friday night.
I bet that's like quite a significant crowd compared to some people's first gigs, man. 8 people. Do you know what I mean? Like, I guarantee some people have had like, an empty hall.
7 people.
Yeah, 7 people even. Oh, mate.
So, I mean, that was sort of the start of it. And then I think slowly after that, I sort of become more and more part of what my brother's band were doing, and we actually formed a band called Master Pilot. Actually, I didn't form the band. My brother and his band had already kind of had this idea and were running with it, and I just became the front man, because they didn't have one. They were just an instrumental kind of funk group, and they needed a front man, and they're like, Luke, I think you're going to be the front man for this band. I'm like, okay.
So was that like rapping and singing? Or just
Well,
rap?
that was it started just covers. We were
Okay.
doing hip hop covers, we were doing Shea Fu, we were doing, we did like Gorillas.
Mhm.
I ain't happy. And I did like Del the Funky Home Mosaic.
Oh, mate, yeah.
Someone let me out.
That's
on stage. All that kind of stuff.
that was is that Ice Cube's cousin, Del the Funky Homo Sapien?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts, isn't it, man?
Yeah.
I mean, he's so underrated, that guy.
Yeah, and I think our first set was like 10 tracks.
Yeah.
We did the 10 tracks, we had a break, we did the 10 again, and that was it. And at the end of the night, you know, we had about, I don't know, 15, 20 people there. And that just kind of steamrolled at this little bar called The Loft in my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
And that was on a Wednesday night. So Wednesday night was hip hop night
Yeah.
in Nelson, in my little hometown. And we were a live hip hop band, and that kind of grew. It expanded into having Mr. Boykin, who you saw in the Swing It video.
Oh, we've got to go off on a bit of a tangent here. So elaborate a bit more about Mr. Boykin and this music video, because when Luke came round tonight, and he's come around with my boy Lloyd, who introduced us.
Big up, Lloyd.
Big up Lloyd. He's he's a photographer for the evening, but he's doing quite a lot of relaxing at the moment. But,
Take it easy, yeah.
so we were chilling out and just watching some music videos before we started recording the podcast, and Luke was just like, "Oh, do you want to see my first music video?" And you know, kind of, you're like, oh, your first one, 2007. You're expecting it to be filmed quite like, you know, an amateur filming or something like that on the street. But the production value behind this thing was ridiculous.
Go and check it out now. It's on our YouTube.
Yeah, come on. What's it called, Luke? What's it called?
It's called Swing It.
It'll be
by
one of the
Kurnel
playlists
MC
on
and Mr.
our
Boykin.
YouTube channel. It'll be one of the playlists. Go and
Yeah,
have a look.
we'll add that. Mr. Boykin, Kurnel MC,
Yeah, Swing It.
Swing It.
Yeah.
And tell us a bit more about the loop, because that was that was pretty knocking.
Yeah. Another one of those kind of classic digging, because Mr. Boykin he's really quite eccentric, as you can tell by the video. He like shaved half of his head off halfway through the shoot.
Oh, that was real.
That was real. He was real, and he just shaved it off, and he's like, I'm gonna be this weirdo. And he's really eccentric, off-centre kind of guy.
Yeah.
But loves his digging in the crates, and he just found that horn sample, bop, 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 and he was just like, ding. Yeah, one night in Turkey, I think it was offered this little 45 from like 1952 or something like that, and he just like, let's run it all the way through.
See, that's incredible. I love that. So, because it's got a very sort of, to me, it's got a very sort of electro swing sort of sound to it.
Yeah, and it's very simplistic. It's got that horn section and that kind of bass, double bass, and just that really kind of running cymbals and hats. It just kind of trots along, I feel like, you know. And it's
So what I'm curious about is how you went from the traditional sort of boom bap sound of hip hop to that sort of hip hop cross electro sort of swing sort of sound. How did that come back? Well, before I go to that, what sort of music was your brother's band?
Well, my brother's band was originally a rock band,
Right.
but then Master Pilot was their kind of funk groove offshoot, and more original based sounds.
Yeah.
Obviously, then I came along. We started by doing covers,
Yeah.
and then as we grew, we started making original music.
Mm-hmm.
And we released over the next 3 years playing these nights. Wednesday night was hip hop night. We produced 3 albums in that time. We toured New Zealand a couple of times.
That's crazy, man.
Because no one was doing live hip hop and funk.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing the MC DJ thing, but no one was doing full band.
And that's with
Hip
the
hop
sort of
and
swing,
funk.
your sort of swing sound.
No, the swing sound, it was funk groove and was swing samples and with hip hop samples, and it was, cause like I said, there was 10, like it built up to 10 people being in this band.
And so we talked a bit about like the band earlier, Fat Freddy's Drop, and they're obviously quite a well-known band from New Zealand. They've got like several members. We've got a big brass section, quite like dynamic, quite crazy live shows that they put on. That's kind of what I'm envisioning right now, just like loads of people having fun on the stage, just like a bit of fun, bit of hip hop.
And
was it a bit cramped on stage?
I was massively cramped on
Just
stage.
vibing,
You know, these first gigs, we're playing in a corner, like, you know, not much bigger than here, with 10 people just crammed into it, like 2 mixers, and you've got, you know, 2 sets of tops and highs in the corner and lows, and it's just.
What I was really interested in is what you said about the government funding for music videos. Do you want to talk a bit more about that? Because that was crazy.
Well, they used to, you know, like Labour government used to fund the release of music, because obviously Labour are very arts and music driven. I don't know if they are here, but they were in New Zealand.
No.
And I don't know if any of the government really any are these days, but you could apply for funding from New Zealand On Air, and if you had you built up a good quality EP or a release or a single, and then they would do funding rounds. So 4 times a year, you could put in a piece of music for funding, and what they'd then do is allocate 50 people in that round would get a $10,000 grant to release a single and shoot a music video. And
how do they choose who it's going to be?
Based on a panel of high level musicians.
So people actually listen through to it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's from all walks of life. So some funding rounds it'd be a completely different section of the musical community. It would always change. It was never the same people. Yeah. But that, I think it only lasted, obviously, it went to national government, then they wiped that, and then they still have it now, but you have to provide the funding yourself. You have an EP, you've got $2,000, I've got this EP, it's worthy of radio airplay, and I've got $2,000 to put in towards it, then they'll still fund it, but nowhere near what they used to. But
yeah. And this is going slightly more political, having that in place, like all that sort of funding, what did that do for... How does that affect sort of people? What I don't know how to word this sort of thing. Do you know where I'm coming from?
Kids off the street and make them.
Yeah, I mean, did it have a really sort of positive effects on the sort of culture of music?
Well, absolutely, because the New Zealand industry flourished.
Yeah.
The New Zealand music industry just went boom from it,
And I guess it provided some healthy competition as well. Like people were like, oh right, so if I make something worthy enough, I can get the funding in and channel my creativity.
Yeah, that's it. And you've also got, that's when people like Scribe and P Money then got the funding to go to the States and actually meet, big producers from the US, go in and sort of meet their stars, work alongside them, go to they went to like, what was the old Def Jam Records, and go and meet all their execs over there, and it was the first time New Zealand hip hop actually got to an international audience.
That's crazy.
And then so that really helped New Zealand sort of find itself.
That's incredible. Yeah, I never knew they did that. That's really cool.
Yeah, and not only hip hop, but just New Zealand music in general. All the She Had and rock music that came out of New Zealand, and the dance music that came out of New Zealand, and now those guys like the Upbeats or She Had or the D4 or Scribe. They're now sort of, them internationally now.
Yeah.
Because of that early funding of music, and it helped to really set the scene for New Zealand to become its own sort of
that's dope, man.
musical entity.
I really, really like that. I think that's a really, really good scheme. But when you, do you want to talk a little bit more about when you first came to the UK, how you kind of integrated within the hip hop community here, how you continue to make music? Did you have to kind of tailor what you did in any way, or did you just say, fuck it, this is me, this is what I do, and just kind of network from there?
Well, I think the first thing I did was start going out to nights.
Yeah.
So just on my own, I'd go into Bournemouth. I went outside the Winchester. I don't know if it was 60 million postcards then, but
might have been Edwards.
Yeah, Edwards. Yeah. And to the bunker and stuff like that underneath the orange rooms. Just went to nights and just introduced myself to people. Just classic networking.
Yeah.
I'm this MC from New Zealand. I don't know if you want to let me on the mic and show you what I've got, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I literally had no contacts really. Until I went to this night at the Winchester, and I met like Cursor and Defoe, and a few of those hip hop guys, Cy from All Elements Hip Hop in Bournemouth, Cy Franklin, Beeline, those boys, and what was the night they did the graph night, something walls. They did graph and hip hop.
Oh shit! I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, the poster's black and white.
Yeah,
I forget the name
but they do like Boogaloo as well. And,
Boogaloo. Yeah. And they were like, because they were a bit older, the boys who were doing that night. It was called Ghetto Jam. And they're like, yeah, go on, let you up for a half an hour spit over some of our tracks. So I got up there and I just sort of got into it with them.
Yeah.
And they were doing just classic hip hop with a bit of funk, and then that kind of more electro stuff, ghetto funk as we call it these days.
Yeah.
And then I just started hanging out with them, networking with them. I went and did a few breaking shows at the Bournemouth Sevens with All Elements Hip Hop. Met a few other guys through that.
Bournemouth Sevens?
Yeah, performed there. And I met, you guys know, you've had Raiden on before. Raiden.
He's coming on in a couple of weeks.
Asprit, James Cox. Asprit, I think his name's Asprit.
No, I don't know, maybe.
Mr. Penn, a few of those sort of local guys. And just sort of got to know them.
Rings a bell.
So when was it? So because Raiden's quite young actually, isn't he?
Yeah, he's really young.
So when did you meet him?
4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
He's been doing it a while.
Yeah,
he's been doing it a while because he's got an album coming out. I think next Monday. I think it's dropping.
Do you know what, I actually made a note on my phone when we bumped into him at that event, because we were both quite pissed. Well, I need to note this down. I'm going to forget. Yeah, next Monday. Big up, Raiden.
And I think that's kind of more where that kind of electronic influence started to come in. Was definitely meeting a guy called Cockney Nutjob.
I've seen his name pop up on your tracks as well.
Who I first started doing music with here, and he's very much that kind of vintage remix, taking some of those more swingy samples and reggae samples. We call our sound reggae drenched breakbeat.
Like that, man.
Which is kind of an odd term.
Cockney Nutjob.
I really like that.
So where's Cockney Nutjob based? Is he London based? Is he Bournemouth based? Is he?
He's originally from Essex. So
but
no, he's based here, and I think as time went along, I mean, we got tighter and tighter, and we were performing more and more, and that's when we started doing little festivals around here on the bus, local playing with like the 4 hours and guys that are amazing, and then sort of branching up more and more as we got tighter and tighter, and last year doing sort of I did about 12 festivals last year.
That's what festival did you do last year?
Loads.
You're always posting stuff on social media, like uploading new kind of
because that's really the sort of key to part of the key to success is just get as many live performances as possible, isn't it?
And longevity, I guess.
Live performance is where it is. It doesn't matter how many. Personally, it doesn't matter how many millions of followers you might have online or SoundCloud followers. If you can't play live, then why are you doing it? Because you've got to be giving joy to others. You get it through the sonically, but there's nothing like getting the energy from people live. There's nothing that drives you on better than that. Yeah, because I was reading an article actually this morning actually about how I don't know if you follow much of grime, but a lot of grime shows in London kind of get shut down before they even put on due to
some sort of act in it from the
I
thought that didn't go on. I know that was like a massive thing going back a few years.
But I don't know if it still happens. Apparently, I think it still does. But they're saying how it does have a really bad effect on the music industry, because artists do get probably about 50% of their overall earnings from live performances, and only like a couple percent of it is actually through streaming.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So it is a massive sort of thing, live performances, isn't it?
I actually, it's funny you say that, because the second album I ever heard from the UK was Grime Wave by Semtex.
Nice.
It came out in like 2005 or something like that. It was one of the albums I actually brought when I came over here on holiday, and I got this Grime Wave by Semtex, and I got one called UK Hustlers, The Return. They had like Comanche Sly and Dag Nabbit and Foreign Beggars and stuff like that. And I was just like, I'd never, and that was the first experience I'd heard of sort of UK hip hop.
Because I mean, I think like Foreign Beggars almost like that sound predates grime. Like even though technically, like Orifice Volgatron, that track they did with Skinny Man, like a Hold On the Asylum Speakers album.